Hey, Tooth and Corners. Today we're going to be talking about business plans, something that I'm sure everyone goes to sleep at night thinking, man, I can't wait to think about business plans tomorrow. We're not just talking about business plans in a wide variety. We're going to talk about them in a pretty tactical way. And so in today's episode, we're going to talk about 3 ways that you can create a business plan as a dental practice owner. 2 of these ways are going to be paid ways of doing it, and the third is going to be a free way. And I'm actually going to do it live with you on the podcast so you can actually see how it works. I think it's a pretty interesting way. So the 3 ways we're going to talk about business plans today is 1, if you engage with someone with professional help. 2 is if you use a software tool. And 3 is if you use AI to help you with the business plan process. But before we get into all that, it's really important for me to talk to you about what a business plan even is. You can go, read in Webster's dictionary some old definition of what a business plan actually is. But to me, it's really just setting a path forward with what your business is going to be and being intentional in the ways in which you're going about hitting the progress moving forward with that business. Dental practices, generally speaking, are going to be in a stage where you're going to be either doing a startup dental practice, or you're going to be acquiring a dental practice or partnering with someone. Or if you've already done one of those things, a business plan may be that you're going to be launching a new segment or a new side of your business to be able to make it go and expand capacity and be able to grow, maybe move to a new space or something like that. Those are the general reasons why you want to business plan things out, game plan things out in a sit-down strategic, method. There are some times when you're going to have someone ask you for a business plan. Generally speaking, the reason you're going to need a business plan is because you're going to be needing someone to give you a loan, and they need that business plan as a documentation process for them sending the stuff over to underwriting and saying, hey, thanks for considering us for this loan, but let's look at all your stuff and see if you have your head on straight and if everything's going the right way. And then if you default on said loan, they can look back and say, look, this is the plan that they gave us. Just because they didn't hit it didn't mean it was our fault for giving them a bad loan. So in a lot of situations, that business plan is something that just gets filed. It's literally a checkmark box that is going on to some form somewhere. But there are times when you can need them for other reasons too. So does that mean that business plans are worthless? Does that mean that they're only good for checking a box from a bank? No, it doesn't mean that. I do think that there is value in business plans. Now, how much value is in the eye of the beholder and who's receiving that plan, but we'll talk about that a little bit into each of those different sections of ways that you can do a business plan in 2025 for a dental practice, whether it be a startup, acquisition, or expansion. Okay, so let's talk about the first way that you can have a business plan done, and that is by engaging with a professional like a CPA like myself. I very, very regularly have people come in that are pre-financing that say, hey, I need to get a business plan together. Can I have you do a business plan for me? And I have to say that in my mind, and again, this is my bias of helping hundreds of dental practices, if not thousands at this point, go through this process. And in my mind, that's probably the least valuable way of getting a business plan, is to have someone else do it for you. So you shouldn't be paying me to do a business plan that you're needing. If you're just needing something on a piece of paper to be able to push forward, to be getting something to finance, there are cheaper ways of doing that than engaging with a professional to do that. I mean, you can just pay someone like, hey, I'll give you $2,500. You give me this piece of paper. The client then takes that to a bank. The bank gives them money. Hey, great. There's value in that, right? But to me, even though there is a transaction occurring there that has value that's a part of it, because you're engaging with someone who likely has seen these things happen from a dental practice perspective before, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the maximum value that you could receive. So to me, the maximum value that is received in the business planning process is actually doing the plan. And if you're paying someone else to do that for you, do you get the piece of paper that you can give to somebody that they can check something off and go that route? Yeah, you do, but you don't really gain a whole lot. So in my mind, can you pay for a professional advice for a business plan? Yes, you can, but don't just pay someone to do it. Pay for someone to help you craft a vision of what it is you're wanting to build. And honestly, I don't know if a CPA is the best person to do that in a lot of cases, because while we see the financial side of things, that is not what a business plan is. A business plan does have financial components to it, but it's not the beginning and end of what the purpose is of that. So as an example of that, in the business plan, you should really be understanding like what type of dentistry you want to do. And if you ask me, I understand there's volume-based dentistry, and then there's high-end dentistry, and then there's cosmetic, and then there's implants, and then there's ortho, and there's pediatric, and all these other things. But that's about as far as I can go with it, of like giving you that insights of which way to plan it towards. If you want to get much more specific on it, then, honestly, the clients are going to be better equipped to be able to handle that type of information. So the second thing that you can do after internalizing that is say, okay, well, this is the type of practice I want to have. Well, what does that mean in terms of like how big of a practice I need to get to in order to be able to hit that type of a goal? So that's the second component. So the first component is like, what type of business do you want to run? What type of practice do you want to have from a clinical perspective and from a market perspective? The second thing that you want to ask is like, how big of a practice do you want to get to? I've got people that have talked to me that says, hey, I want to buy a dental practice every month for the next, 6 years or something like that. I've had people that say, hey, I want to do 2 startups a year and just grow them until I get to 20 startups. I've had people that say, hey, I want to go and partner with people and do a private equity thing and do DSOs and all these other crazy things. All of those things are possible, but you got to think about how big you want to get up. Most people, they just want to get to one practice, one location, and being busy with just themselves as the dentist. Surprisingly, a large percentage of people don't want to deal with having an associate or a partner or anything like that, which I will say personally, I think that's a good perspective to have. It's not for everybody, but I think that that's a pretty healthy one, and one that a lot of dental practice owners do really well with every day. So internalize this information yourself. You don't have to have a CPA to ask you these things. It's really your job to internalize these things. If you are having someone professionally help you with this, then you should be giving that person these context pieces of like, hey, I want a high-end dental practice that is just me as a dentist. I'm going to need, 5 operatories. And in, 5 years, I want to have 1,000 active patients, and we're going to be doing high-end dentistry. And generally, from my understanding of the market, that means that I'll be doing somewhere around 1.5 to 2.5 million a year in revenue based off these big dental pieces of the puzzle. And that's kind of where you start with the business plan. It's like, hey, we have type of practice, so personal vision of the practice, you have capacity for the practice, and then you have where you're going to be in the next 5 years. So you create a kind of an end point. And then if you want to pay for professional advice to get you from where you are today to that end point, that's fine. I'll tell you, in my professional experience, that doesn't typically happen. You don't typically track your progress along the way, along that structure in terms of like using the accounting stuff. You may use it from a practice level, but not necessarily from an accounting perspective. So anyway, so the first category is you can pay for this advice. Generally, if you just pay for something for the report, you're generally looking at like around $2,500 to get just the report from them. Probably not going to have a whole lot of consultative process as a part of that. Probably not going to have a whole lot of like eye-opening, internalized questions that are like, being derived from that. But it is something that you can potentially do. So that's the first one. And that's the paid one. And it can have value if you're talking to the right people. But again, personally, I think the higher amount of value comes from asking yourself the question and going through the process yourself, more so than paying someone else to go through that process for you, if that makes sense. So the second option, which is also a paid option, is you can use an app. Obviously, there's going to be an app for that. The one that I always point people to is called LivePlan. So if you go to liveplan.com, I'll share my screen. So I'm sharing my screen now, and this is LivePlan. It's a really great tool. It's really simple to use. It does a really good job of walking you through these questions, and even will input some financial terms for you at some point as well. It's an annual package. You can do the monthly one. I don't typically recommend that. I say just do the annual one. It's $180 for the standard one. It's $360 for the premium one. So pretty big reduction in the amount it costs. It's got sample plans in there. It's got one-page builders. It's got all this information in here. And it does kind of walk you through these what-if scenarios. It kind of, on the higher end one of it, it asks you the questions to think about, the different pieces of the puzzle and things like that. It's good. Again, if you're looking for just the report, which is what I was saying about earlier, I think that this is actually usually a better tool than to pay a professional to create that report for you, because the values and the thought that goes into it, not the piece of paper that you have. So LivePlan's one. There's a bunch of AI ones of these out there now that are paid products that you can go in. You can actually just go in and input information into the app, and it'll build this really beautiful document for you that's a business plan that you can give that to the bank, and it'll likely be as good, if maybe not even better, than what a CPA could put together for you if you just gave that CPA some very, very limited information. And believe it or not, some people that you talk to, if you pay them for this product, they may actually use LivePlan or a similar package to create the report for you at the end of the day. So again, this is good to me for people that are doing a startup or an acquisition, or they're doing an expansion of their current operations. I lean more towards the startup side of being the highest value because it's got the most runway of and difference 5 years from now than what it would be today. The acquisition's a little bit more tricky because you've got to look at your prior data rather than just starting fresh that happened from that practice. Now you can kind of translate that and say, okay, instead, I'm going to be doing this new business venture and basically operate it like it's an expansion from zero if you're going to be doing it that through LivePlan, because I think they have options for startups and acquiring businesses as well. And if you're acquiring a business, it gets a little bit more complex because, again, I think you probably could use some professional advice of analyzing what you're going to be buying, but that's very different than doing a business plan per se, like a traditional business plan setup. So LivePlan's a good one. There's a bunch of AI ones out there, but LivePlan's the one I point most people to. You just go to liveplan.com. It's got a good one. It's got good demos and stuff on here. Just tons of information, and it's a really good product. So I do recommend liveplan.com. There's no paid ad or anything like that going along with this. It's just a tool that I've used before, and I do recommend. Okay, so now we're going to jump into the third category of ways to get a business plan, and we're going to do it for free. We're going to use ChatGPT. So standard AI, just go to chatgpt.com, and I think it's a pretty good tool. I think that you can, probably have it prompt you in intelligent ways. And again, this could be a dumpster fire, a disaster of a live process, but I'm going to give you the prompts that I would use if I was building it, and we'll just kind of walk through it. So here we go. Okay, so I'm going to start off and say, I am a dentist that is doing a startup dental practice. Act like a business advisor who has helped dentists do startup dental practices hundreds of times. Ask me questions that will make me think about my plan to build out a startup practice until you feel you have sufficient information to create a full business plan for me. I'll say the purpose of the business plan is for strategic management and to hold myself accountable to progress throughout the business's life cycle. Okay, so let's do this prompt and see what it gives us. Okay, so I entered in the prompt. I'm a dentist that's going to start a dental practice. Act like a business advisor who's helped dentists do start a dental practice hundreds of times. Ask me questions that will make me think about my plan to build out a startup practice until you feel you have sufficient information to create a full business plan for me. The purpose of the business is for strategic management and to hold myself accountable to progress through the business's life cycle. I meant to say the purpose of the business plan. Hopefully it reads into that. So the ChatGPT's response is perfect. Let's dig in. We're building this thing from the ground up. I'll walk you through the exact questions I'd ask if you were doing a full strategy session together. As we go, I'll adjust the direction depending on your answers. Vision and personal goals. So the first thing I ask, why are you starting your dental practice? Is it for freedom? Is it for income potential, for clinical philosophy, etc.? Ask me, what kind of practice do you want to run? Fee for service, PPO heavy, Medicaid, and specialty, etc. Where do you see the business in 5 to 10 years? It has a whole bunch of questions on here. And rather than us go through all 28 questions of these and let me actually answer them for you, I'm just going to read out the questions for you so you can understand, because this is doing a really good job of highlighting what a professional would ask you. So number one, again, why are you starting your practice? Freedom, income potential, clinical philosophy, etc. 2, what kind of practice do you want to run? Fee for service, PPO heavy, Medicaid, specialty, etc. 3, where do you see this business in 5 to 10 years? Is it going to be solo with a strong lifestyle focus? Is it going to be a multi-location group? Are you going to sell it in 7 years? 4, what does success look like personally for you through this practice? It's a fantastic question. 5, what procedures will you offer in-house? Are you going to only do general dentistry? Are you going to do implants, ortho, IV sedation, etc.? Are you planning to hire associates eventually, or do you want to be the only doctor? How involved will you be clinically versus managerially over time? It's going to ask questions about locations and demographics. Have you picked out your location yet? If not, what cities and zip codes are you targeting and why? How much research have you done in the local competition, demographics, and population growth? What is your ideal patient avatar? Age, income, family status, insurance preferences, values, etc. How many operatories are you going to build out? What's your contractor and equipment supplier if you've chosen one? Are you going to do ground-up construction, leasehold improvement, or taking over space? Financing budgeting. Have you secured financing? If so, from whom or how much? What's your total startup budget, including working capital? How much cash are you personally contributing? How much of a financial cushion do you have for your personal life during the startup phase? Operations timeline. What's your projected opening date? What milestones do you need to hit to stay on track? Who is helping you with project management? Do you have a contractor, consultant, spouse, etc.? Do you have a practice management software chosen yet? Team and culture, and on and on. So all these questions are fantastic questions, and they're the questions you should be asking yourself. If I'm reading through this, the marketing and patient acquisition, what's your plan to attract your first 100 new patients? Are you planning to work with a dental marketing firm or DIY it for now? What's your monthly marketing budget? All of these questions are just absolutely fantastic. And so what numbers will you track daily, weekly, monthly to keep yourself accountable? All these things are great. And so you could literally go through this and go from 1 to 28 in the questions, answer them into ChatGPT. And once it has all the answers in there, say, great, based off of my answers, are there any other questions you have for me? Or you could say, based off of my answers, put together a general business plan that's, say, 5 to 10 pages long, and it would give you some pretty good information on it, which is wild that we're in this world that can do this now. So again, this is basically free. I think I'm using one of the newer LLM models with ChatGPT, but other than that, it's pretty free and pretty fast to do this. So as I stated earlier in the conversation, to me, the part of answering the questions is the important piece. That's where the real value is to the dentist, because it's making you think about it. So once you have the plan, then it comes down to, okay, well, how do I track my progress on this? And this is one of the things that you can even go in and ask ChatGPT for, and I'll just do this live. Again, this could be an awful response, but we'll see what it says. So I'm going to say, pretend I've answered all of these questions in depth. Give me a strategy to hold myself accountable to tracking the plan's progress. This is one of the things I really like about ChatGPT is you can actually do these kind of like, well, here, let me just think about where the challenge is and let's just ask what it says. And while does it give you 100% like good answers? No. Sometimes it gives you very surface level answers that don't make a whole lot of sense, but sometimes it gets close. Like I said, those 28 questions that asked just now were fantastic. Are there more that you likely should ask? Yeah, absolutely. But for doing this yourself, this is a fantastic process. So it's saying, hey, here's an accountability strategy. Clarity creates confidence. Consistency builds momentum. So it says to set some clear milestones across the life cycle. It gives you some timelines for things. It tells you to establish a CEO scorecard, which is a fantastic thing to advise. Create a weekly or biweekly CEO dashboard for yourself that tracks all this information. Keep it short, 8 to 10 metrics max, color code them, and do a weekly reflection. Run monthly strategy check-ins. Anyway, so I'm just kind of showing you some other things that can happen based off of this. You can easily pay a company to give you a report. The value, though, is in the thought going into the report, and that's for you to think about, not for the CPA or for a professional. And then the other value that's often missed is what happens after the plan's been created. It's the accountability of following the plan and keeping track of it. I'm not perfect at this either. On my phone, I have a list of notes from years ago that were my goals for Tooth and Coin, as well as myself personally and all these other things. And it's really fun to be able to go back in and check on those things as you go. But if you don't follow up on them regularly, like literally put it on a calendar to go check these things, you will forget to do them. So having a structured process to keep yourself accountable on the follow through of the plan is just as important as doing the plan itself. The point of this conversation is, have I given you 3 different ways to do a business plan in a pretty efficient manner? You could probably have a business plan set up in 24 hours if you ran through Live Plan or through doing it yourself through a ChatGPT plugin or something like that. And I think you get an extreme amount of value from it. Naturally, I'm not saying that any professional that could help you with this couldn't do a better job than the DIY, but I think you get a very far long way of the way through the process and receive a very, very high percentage of the value for a way less cost when it comes to those pieces of it. Now, how much does that last 5 to 10% worth? Again, that's in the eye of the beholder, and that depends on who the user of the product is. So I'm not saying that the lower cost versions of what I just gave you are the best solution. I'm just saying that they are an option for those out there that are able to do it themselves. I do, though, however, believe that the main value you receive in creating a business plan or even having a plan is in the reflection and the insights you gain from looking at a plan and putting it on paper, and then holding yourself accountable and following through with what happens with the plan over time. The strategic management side of the business plan is not that you followed the plan exactly, it's that you reflected on the plan over a certain period of time. You looked at what worked and what didn't work. And if you need to pivot the plan, you can. So that's the episode today. I think business plans are interesting. I think they're fun to look at. They're fun to pay attention to, and they're even more fun to succeed at. So this has been Jonathan Van Horn with Tooth and Coin, CPA firm for dental practice owners. Until next time, Tooth and Coiners, we'll see you. Thanks for tuning in to the Tooth and Coin podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with a fellow dentist or a practice owner who could benefit. Your word of mouth helps us spread financial wisdom throughout the dental community. So until next time, keep building that thriving practice.